Welcome. Before our presentation begins, I am going to play the following two songs on my recorder. The original theme from the anime Pokemon, and the theme from the anime-inspired and/or half-anime series Miraculous Ladybug. Hello everybody, and welcome to our presentation, The Anime Connection, exploring the social opportunities for individuals with disabilities from the anime and gaming communities. I am James Williams, and I am giving this presentation with Hailey Buxton and Ruiz. Unfortunately, Danica Lane was unable to present with us this year virtually, so she is being replaced by Ruiz. Anime and gaming are two very common interests among people with disabilities. But I can't assume that everybody watching this knows exactly what I'm referring to when I say anime and gaming. By anime, I'm referring to a style of animation that is originally from Japan or can sometimes include animation that is inspired by the anime form from Japan. And by gaming, I'm not referring to the gambling games often played in casinos, but video gaming, tabletop gaming, online gaming. And in the past several decades, the gaming and the anime communities have formed and become very inclusive to individuals with disabilities. Now, anime, as defined as the form of animation from Japan, is something that has been around and in many ways has been a part of Japanese culture for many decades. In fact, Osamu Tezuka is known among people who understand and study Japanese history as the father of anime. But anime pretty much became known here in America in the 1990s when Pokemon and Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z came out. And those were anime series that were marketed mostly towards children in America. However, anime back in Japan is comprised of many genres. But it was those shows that kind of broke the ice and made anime popular here in America. So when I define anime, I'm referring to the art form from Japan that was made popular here in America about 2 decades ago in the 90s, mostly with the introduction of Pokemon and Sailor Moon. And by gaming, I'm referring to, video gaming, online gaming, and not the gambling games found in casinos. When anime took hold and became popular here in America, and I remember as a kid when Pokemon first came out, and it became something extremely popular among lots of kids, and it was something that, kids wanted to get the rare Pokemon cards and trade with everybody, and school started banning Pokemon because it became so popular. And back at one time, Charizard was the rarest Pokemon card. Pokemon became popular, and with it came other anime, and a whole community was formed. And now there are whole conventions just for anime fans to come together. Likewise, video games have been popular for many years in many countries, and there are many video gaming conventions and also conventions like anime conventions where there are video gaming sections within the conventions. Most anime conventions have a video game room or an arcade where gaming fans can go and play games, even though video gaming isn't entirely related to anime. And so today's presentation is going to be about how these communities, the anime community and the gaming community, have helped people with disabilities find a socially inclusive environment, and how social inclusion has been perfected within those communities, and how people with disabilities within those communities have been helped by that inclusion, and how what these conventions are doing can be a nice model for other communities to follow. I have enjoyed anime ever since I was a kid and watched Pokemon every morning before I went to school in the 5th grade. I've also enjoyed video games, and I have a lot of friends that also enjoy anime and gaming. And I can tell you right now, as a person with autism, many of my true friends that I built when I was a child in the 5th grade, when I fell in love with Pokemon, were based on that interest in Pokemon. That was an icebreaker that enabled me to make friends at a time when, a lot of small talk, a lot of things that basically other kids can use to build friendships. A lot of kids with disabilities, whether it's autism or, ADD or other disabilities, often struggle with. And then as a high school senior, I went to my first anime convention, and from the moment I stepped foot in that convention, I suddenly felt like I was in this environment of social inclusion. I basically felt like, I could be accepted here despite having autism, despite having a hidden disability. And so, ever since I finished high school, I have been going to anime conventions. I have been speaking at anime conventions about autism and other disabilities, and for the past several years here at the Family Cafe, I have discussed, along with other co-presenters, how the environment of anime conventions and the anime fan community and the gaming fan community has helped create that environment of inclusion among people with disabilities and people who feel different from the majority. So, how have these communities helped create that social inclusion and those social opportunities? Well, one of the things that often causes a lot of struggles for people with disabilities when they try to make friends is that there's this expectation among kids, teenagers, adulthood, among most of the human lifespan, that people instinctively know social rules, know the unwritten and unspoken social rules that are expected of them in friendship, something that autism researcher Dr. Brenda Miles has referred to as the hidden curriculum. And many times when you have a disability, either because you have a social deficit or a disabilities in interpreting social skills, or because you haven't always had the ability to interact with your friends and your peers the way non-disabled individuals have, you don't always instinctively understand social skills and social rules the way other non-disabled individuals do. You can learn those social skills, and in fact, I have benefited greatly from people helping me understand social skills throughout my life. But in many cases, they have to be learned. They have to be taught. Well, anime conventions and the anime community, in order to accommodate people with different disabilities, they've had to make their own set of rules in order to maintain the cohesiveness of the community. However, because those rules are often distinct to the community, they don't expect people who've come to an anime convention or an anime community event for the first time to know those rules. So one of the things that they do to help foster that inclusion is everybody, regardless of whatever disability they have, or even if they're non-disabled, everyone, when they go to most anime conventions and most gaming conventions, or whether or not they're going to an anime convention to game, when they register at the convention, whether they're registering on site or picking up their registration materials after already pre-registering, everyone is given in their registration booklet a detailed list of all the rules and regulations expected of them at the convention. There are no surprises. All the rules are stated in the registration booklets, and they are enforced by an in-convention security force that helps them understand those rules. And therefore, everybody, for the most part, goes to a convention and attends the convention pretty much knowing what they can do and what they can't do. People don't have to go to convention fear that they're going to just break some rule or upset somebody based on some expectation socially they didn't understand in the first place. One other thing, too, that a lot of these conventions do is they create different activities for different types of individuals. And although no part of the convention is going to be accessible to everybody, the large variety of events that anime and gaming conventions offer exists to ensure that there's hopefully something for everybody. For example, one signature event at many anime conventions is that of a loud dance called a rave. Now, don't be misled by the word rave here. When I say rave, I'm not referring to, the underground raves that occurred back in the 80s and 90s where a bunch of not so nice stuff was going on. I'm referring to how rave is defined at anime conventions. It's a very friendly dance. It's a loud dance, but it's a very friendly dance where people come in costume and just enjoy themselves and dance any way they want to with their friends and just have fun. And there's a security force making sure that all that not so good stuff isn't happening. Now, those dances has helped a lot of people with disabilities, especially hidden disabilities, come together and just have a ball with each other. But they are loud, and there are other people who are bothered by that loud music. And so usually, around the time of that dance, there are more quieter events going on. One of them often are tabletop games or in-person role-playing games where people sit in a circle or some formation and play different roles together in a much more quiet setting. One example is a game called Werewolf, and Werewolf is a game where the players sit in a circle and have different roles in a fantasy setting involving werewolves and villagers. And Werewolf is also a game that's helped a lot of people with disabilities at these conventions because in Werewolf, the players are given roles and are told by the game master or the moderator who's running Werewolf how they present themselves with that role, what they do and what they don't do. So there's not a lot of small talk, not a lot of improvisation. And in Werewolf, people who don't even know each other, who've never even talked to each other, suddenly are able to interact with each other and have amazing interactions playing these roles in this role-playing game that's either played in a tabletop form with a table holding the cards or just in a free-form circle with a moderator standing in the center. One other thing, too, that anime and gaming conventions really help people understand is that although a lot of people, when they think of watching anime and they think of, playing video games, a lot of people associate, some gamer by himself in his room playing the game, or some person by themselves in their room watching anime. But in reality, at these conventions, while, yes, people sometimes are by themselves watching anime or playing games, there is still a community that exists of other people who have the same interests that they do. One other thing that the anime community and the gaming communities have done is they've also created memes of acceptance and tolerance. And amazingly, many of those memes and those ideas actually mirror a lot of the social rules that are actually taught to many students with disabilities during social skills instruction in educational settings. One of them is something called cosplay is not consent. Okay, so what exactly does cosplay is not consent mean? Well, in the anime convention scene, it's very common for attendees to dress up as an anime character. Dressing up as an anime character or just in a costume of a character. Sometimes people will dress up as superheroes like Batman and Superman. And even when a convention is called an anime convention or gaming convention, there's always overlap between different fandoms. So you'll see people dressed up, say, as Superman or Harry Potter at an anime convention, even though that's technically not anime, because people still enjoy those characters. Well, in that convention scene, if you are dressed up in any character, you are referred to as cosplaying. Because my name is James, I typically cosplay when I go to conventions as James, the villain from Team Rocket. Because my name is James, and I actually go by a stage name sometimes, James as James. Now, because costumes sometimes represent characters that people are obsessed over. They can be the special interest of a person with autism, a person with ADD, or many disabilities. There are times when people don't always respect the space and the boundaries of people cosplaying. So that's what cosplay is not consent means. Basically what it means is, just because I'm cosplaying as your favorite costume, whether it's Pikachu from Pokemon, or Sailor Jupiter from Sailor Moon, or Hercule from Dragon Ball Z, doesn't mean I consent to you bothering me, invading my personal space, or engaging in any social behavior that I don't consent to. And so cosplay is not consent has been a really nice way of teaching a lot of people with disabilities proper, social graces of personal space and boundaries. Things that a lot of people with disabilities struggle with. And for any educators and teachers listening to this, a lot of people with disabilities struggle with understanding those rules. And what's amazing is how in the anime convention scene, a lot of people with disabilities have learned, by way of cosplay is not consent, those proper social norms of personal space, proper boundaries in different types of relationships, and other important social graces that everybody needs to learn in order to function in society. At the same time, anime and gaming isn't just a representation of socially inclusive communities. They also represent a medium in which disabilities can be taught and spoken about, and awareness of different disabilities can be taught. And my co-presenters are going to talk more about that, but There are many references in anime and games that can be utilized to teach awareness of specific disabilities. One example I'm going to give now is Sailor Moon. If you don't know what Sailor Moon is about or not familiar with Sailor Moon is about a group of teenage girls who are magical. They're part of the magical girl genre of anime, and they're known as Sailor Scouts. And one of the primary magical girls in this anime, Sailor Moon, when we first meet her, she's a typical girl who's struggling in school. She's failed a test, but on that same day, it hasn't done well on a test and hasn't gotten good grades in school. She finds out she's destined to become this magical superhero. Now, a lot of people with disabilities had struggled in school. Even if they're intelligent, even if they're smart people, because the structure of school can be difficult for individuals with disabilities. And, here in Sailor Moon, here you have this quintessential character who's struggling in school but is strong, is magical, is a hero who fights villains and bad guys, even though they struggle in school. And there's so many people with disabilities who are smart, they're unique, but they struggle in school. And one powerful lesson you can learn from Sailor Moon is that just because you are struggling in school and don't always get those good grades doesn't mean that you're not a unique, smart, intelligent, and powerful individual in your own way. Games also often have many lessons and things of awareness that can be shared. Probably one classic example are many of the old Pokemon video games where you, the main character, have a rival. And this rival is not always kind to you. And when I played many of the original Pokemon games on my Game Boy, Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, I noticed a lot of parallels between how the rival character wasn't always friendly to my character and a lot of the bullying that I went through when I was in school. I also noticed how the character's mother in the character's hometown, and in this game you can name your character whatever, always loved you, and you could always go back to your hometown and your mom was always there for you. And if you're a parent of a disability, you know how much you love your child. And that love that is shown in the original Pokemon games helped me realize just how much my parents loved me as their child, and is a nice way of showing people that even if a person has a disability, parents, by their nature, love their children. Another game that has various disability awareness references is that of Mario Party and Super Mario 64, two very popular series within the Mario franchise. In Super Mario 64, Mario, the main character, has to rescue Princess Peach, and he does so by acquiring these things called Power Stars. But he doesn't acquire those Power Stars alone. He does so with the help of other individuals and other creatures and other beings within the different courses and worlds that he navigates to get those Power Stars. And as much as people with disabilities are told, you need to be independent as much as possible, for some people with disabilities, being fully independent isn't always possible. Sometimes what's needed is an interdependence or an ability to know how to get help from others, but knowing the right people to get help from. And in Super Mario 64, Mario has to learn who to get help from, what creatures are helpful, and what creatures are not helpful. Likewise, in Mario Party, the player plays various characters within the Super Mario universe on various boards. And these boards are often named after different characters in the Mario universe or are themed that way, such as the Woody Woods in Mario Party 3, or Peach's birthday cake in the original Mario Party 1. And in these games, after every turn on the board, there are these things called mini-games, and each mini-game requires different skills. They are designed that no one who plays this game is good in every game. But you can still win the game based on the skills that you acquire as you play different mini-games in the different Mario Party games and the different various Mario Party games, like Mario Party 1, 2, 3, all the way till the latest version. But it's okay. It's okay not to do well in one minigame. You can lose a minigame. You still might win the actual game. And that game can help us teach awareness of the fact that, people with disabilities aren't going to be good at everything. But that doesn't mean they aren't good at something. And you can still win things. You can still win a game of Mario Party, be the superstar in a game, even if you don't do well at every mini game within a specific Mario Party game. Likewise, in real life, just because you're not skilled everywhere doesn't mean you have skill somewhere. And for those reasons, those games can be utilized to teach awareness of the realities that many people with different disabilities face. Another anime series that can be very useful in teaching awareness of different issues people with disabilities face. It's a lesser known anime, but I really enjoy it because it talks about a lot of the bullying that people with disabilities face. And that is the anime Peach Girl. Peach Girl is about a girl with tan skin because she enjoys swimming. And of course, a lot of people with disabilities enjoy swimming, and she's bullied a lot for having tan skin, and she's seen very negatively because of her tan skin, even though the stuff that people think about her is totally different than who she really is as a person. Now, I will warn you, there is some content in this anime that's specific, to high school, but this anime really, really shows a lot of the bullying that people with disabilities can face. Not that I'm trying to say, every person with a disability is bullied in school, but many of them are. And this anime series really portrays a lot of that bullying that can go on, especially when, there are just some kids in your school that just want to rip you apart, that just want to ruin your life, even when you've done nothing to them, even when you don't know why. Somebody just wants to ruin your life when you are in school. And Peach Girl really covers a lot of the bullying issues that people with disabilities go through. Another thing Peach Girl goes through, one thing that Peach Girl covers a lot are dating issues. A lot of the conflict in Peach Girl is the struggles the main character, Momo, has regarding dating. And, dating can be a very difficult thing for people with disabilities. And in Peach Girl, the guy that Momo loves, people are trying to tell her that she shouldn't be with him. And then there's this other guy that really makes her uncomfortable. And there are many times, in fact, when a lot of people with disabilities, not just females with disabilities, but males with disabilities too, are often made uncomfortable by people who creep them out, think that they're easy to be taken advantage of in a relationship because of their disability. And that also appears in Peach Girl. Now, one thing I also want everyone to understand here is that the anime series and the games I mentioned don't directly feature people with disabilities. But that doesn't mean that these series don't involve characters that are put in situations people with disabilities go through. A lot of people with disabilities are often frustrated there's not a lot of representation of people with their disability in anime and in games. But what I'm going to say is this: we can't control the lack of representation in anime and games, but that doesn't mean we have to be let down by this lack of representation. Rather, what we can instead do is say, although there is an underrepresentation that needs to be changed, we don't need to wait until that time comes to use anime and games to teach awareness of our disability and other disabilities. And at the same time, regardless of the representation that may or may not exist in anime and games, that doesn't invalidate the fact that the anime and gaming fan communities and the conventions that have been created for those communities have done amazing things to help people with disabilities feel included, feel accepted, feel like they belong. Because at these conventions, although we all consent to following many rules in order to ensure that we feel comfortable together at the conventions, such as accepting that cosplay is not consent, such as accepting that we shouldn't harass each other, that we should make sure that our costumes don't have actual firearms so we don't scare other people unnecessarily. Ultimately, we are fighting for a social freedom, the freedom of association and friendship. Many people with disabilities often find that they can make friends, but they don't always get along with their peers. They might get along sometimes with their peers with other disabilities. They might get along at times with sometimes non-disabled peers or people their age that understand them. But then there are times when people with disabilities, they get along with people that are younger than them, people that are older than them, sometimes people that have a disability that's different than theirs. And as a society, we try to discourage those friendships. We so much want everybody to hang out with people of their same age and their same gender. And sometimes when you have a disability, that doesn't always work. At these conventions, we work hard to make sure that people have that freedom to make friends with anyone who is going to be a true friend to them, a safe person. Because sometimes your peers can bully you when you have a disability. They just don't understand you. And sometimes your peers are not always the safest people for you to become friends and hang out with. And anime and gaming conventions work so hard for people to have that freedom. The freedom to be friends with the responsibility of being respectful. With the responsibility of being respectful comes that right to just be able to walk up to somebody that you feel comfortable with and possibly initiate a friendship. I have made friends with people of different ages and different gender identities who respect me as a person with autism, who often will build those friendships with me, even with the approval of their parents. Sometimes I have befriended whole families of individuals with disabilities at the anime conventions who respect my work as a self-advocate with autism and who I look forward to seeing at different anime and gaming conventions. One gaming convention that sadly only occurred once because it didn't make enough money was a convention named Gamer Grace in St. Charles, Illinois. Gamer Grace was a convention that, during its first year, put an emphasis on gaming with disabilities. And they had whole presentations given by gamers with different disabilities talking about how, despite their disability, they used gaming in order to find a community for them and also to still be successful playing video games, even with their disability. There was a gamer who was physically handicapped, who still found a way to play games and beat many games despite their physical disabilities. Even more impressive was a blind gamer, a man who was born blind, who couldn't see the game yet still found a way through sound and tactile inputs to play games and beat games and win video games and find a community among gamers. Thank you for listening to my portion of this presentation. Now, to talk about various animes that they can relate to and how it relates to them, here's my co-presenter, Hailey Buxton.
Hi, I'm Hailey. I'm from Pinellas Park. I've been friends with James and Danica for a little over a decade now. We first met when Danica and I were participating in a therapeutic acting group. James attended one of our shows, and for the next few productions, he played a part. Anyway, I'm dressed up like Lily from the Pokemon Sun and Moon games and series, and I have Nebby with me. So anyway, my segment of the presentation will be explaining the Pokemon games and series and the Miraculous Ladybug show and how I think that people with disabilities can identify with those shows. So anyway, the Pokemon series begins with our protagonist, Ash Ketchum. It's the first day of his Pokemon journey, but he wakes up late. I'm sure a lot of you have woken up late in a rush to get to school, work, etc. So anyway, when Ash arrives at Professor Oak's Pokemon Research Lab in his hometown of Pallet, he finds that the Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle that are given away to new trainers have all been taken because why? Ash got up late. Turns out Professor Oak has one Pokemon left, and it's this very cheeky Pikachu who doesn't even listen to what Ash tells him to do. Sure, they get off to a rocky start, but once Ash saves Pikachu's life from a group of Spearow and a Fearow, they become close friends, and they have become inseparable since. They have traveled through 7 regions together, and in the upcoming new series, they will be traveling through all the regions, including the newest one, Galar. So basically, in my opinion, those with disabilities can identify with Pokemon because when they play the games and watch the series, it provides a temporary escape from the real world, and they can easily identify with the characters. For instance, in the anime, you know how Ash's friend Brock tends to flirt with the ladies? And Serena, Ash's girl companion in Kalos, has a crush on him but has a hard time confessing his feelings? Romantic relationships can be very challenging amongst those with disabilities. They don't know how to start in a relationship. They don't know how to behave properly with others. So I think that Pokemon can kind of highlight their struggles in a way like that. And friendship is an important part of the Pokemon series too. In the Sun and Moon anime, Ash got off to a rocky start with his friend Kiawe. The moment Ash got a Z-Ring from the legendary Pokemon Tapu Koko, Kiawe wasn't too pleased, and he gave Ash a little bit of a lecture on how using Z moves should be taken seriously and not lightly. It's a sacred form of battle in the region of Alola. But as Ash goes on with his Alola journey and his friends get to know him more, him and Kiawe become close friends. Next, I'd like to talk about the Miraculous Ladybug show and how, in my opinion, those with disabilities can identify with it. So, the Miraculous Ladybug show is about two teenagers, Marinette Dupen-Cheng and Adrian Agreste. Marinette is the daughter of two bakers, and Adrian is the son of a fashion designer and an actress. Ever since his mother mysteriously went missing, she's actually in a coma in the family mansion's basement, Adrian's father has been overprotective and has refused to allow him to go to the public school, Francois Dupont. A lot of people with disabilities tend to have overprotective parents. And the Miraculous Ladybug show highlights that very well in Adrian's overprotective father, Gabriel Agreste. So anyway, Marinette has a massive crush on Adrian, and she can't form a coherent sentence with him. She stumbles on her words, and her best friend Alia tends to tease her about it. So, cut to the chase, there is this malicious supervillain, Hawkmoth, who is terrorizing the city of Paris, corrupting people with his Akumas. Basically, Hawkmoth targets individuals who are dealing with negative emotions like anger, sadness, fear, and he turns them into supervillains with one goal in mind: to get the magical jewels, the miraculous of Marinette and Adrian, who are Ladybug and Cat Noir, the superheroes who defend Paris from Hawkmoth, although thankfully, due to their careful plans of keeping their identity secret even from each other, which has become a pet peeve amongst fans, Hawkmoth can't hurt them or their families. But it turns out, Hawkmoth is Adrian's father in disguise, who plans to get Ladybug and Cat Noir's Miraculous to make a wish to break the curse of endless sleep on his wife, Emily, that had been induced by the damaged Peacock Miraculous being overused so many times. It is currently unknown how the Peacock Miraculous got damaged, but we're gonna find out soon. So anyway, Master Fu, the last guardian of the Miraculous, has chosen Marinette and Adrian to wield the Ladybug and Black Cat Miraculouses with the Kwamis Tiki and Plag to save Paris from Hawkmoth and to retrieve the Butterfly Miraculous. Now, Hawkmoth has gained an ally, Mayura, who has taken the mantle of using the damaged Peacock Miraculous, which was fixed at the end of the third season. And like Hawkmoth Sakuma's, Mayura uses feathers from her hand fan called a mux. And unlike Akumatai's villains, Mayura can use her amux to target people dealing with negative emotions and create creatures called Sentimonsters out of them. A guardian that basically corresponds to the negative emotions they're feeling. Pokemon and the Miraculous Ladybug Show carry the common theme of those with disabilities struggling with friendships and romantic relationships. By watching these shows, those with disabilities are presented with the struggles the characters are facing and can therefore identify with those characters in both shows. Back to you, James.
And now, to talk about how anime conventions have helped them as a person with a disability, please welcome my second co-presenter, Rose Ruiz.
Hello, my name is Rose, and I am here to talk to you guys about my experience from all these anime conventions that I have been to, and I would also like to talk about my free hug sign, which I will get to later. And now, for my experiences at these cons, at these anime conventions, I feel very welcome. As an autistic person, I feel very welcome at these anime conventions, and I meet a lot of new people. It's a lot of fun for me as an autistic person. And the anime community really welcomes a lot of people that have autism. And I really enjoy it. That is my personal opinion. And the last thing I would like to talk to you guys about is my free hug sign. If you don't know what a free hug sign is, it's a piece of paper that I write or type free hugs on, and after that, and when I print it out, I hold it up to my chest. I wear it like a necklace, or I hold it up to my chest, and I go around with that sign on. And some people give me hugs because they see the sign. They give me free hugs, and it lets everybody know that I'm the type of person who really enjoys hugs. And I really enjoy, that is my favorite part of the convention, is going around with the free hug sign. And that will be it for my video. I appreciate you guys for watching.
As our presentation comes to a close, one thing that I think needs to be remembered is that the strategies that anime conventions, gaming conventions, and the anime and gaming communities at large implement to help foster social inclusion and acceptance can be implemented in other places. Probably one important thing that we all should work hard to do is to stop assuming that the people around us automatically know the unspoken and unwritten social expectations of a social setting. Like the anime conventions, who make sure that anyone who comes to their event, when they register, within their booklet, sees a list of every rule and expectation that they have to follow at their event. Other events and places can follow suit and publish their rules in their settings. We need to learn that not everyone is going to automatically know the social rules of a setting, and we can learn from the anime and gaming communities. Stop expecting people to know the unspoken rules of a setting and start teaching them. In addition, at anime conventions and at gaming conventions, there is an understanding that even when you have differences, even when people are different from one another, there are many things they can have in common. At these conventions, people of different disabilities, people of different backgrounds, befriend each other based on the common interest of an anime series, a favorite game, or a favorite TV show. People learn and acknowledge that they can be different. They might have a different disability, they might have a different skill, but they might still be good friends because they both enjoy that same anime. It is my opinion that these values of inclusion and acceptance that are utilized and perfected within the anime and gaming communities can be implemented in other settings, and hopefully we can use those values to make the world a more socially inclusive place for people with disabilities. And now, to close our presentation, I will perform on my recorder the original theme song from the anime Sailor Moon. Thank you for listening to our talk, The Anime Connection, exploring the social opportunities for individuals with disabilities from the anime and gaming communities. To learn more about my work, please check out my website at jamesmw.com. That's jamesmw.com. If you want to ask me any questions, feel free to email me at jmw820@comcast.net. That's jmw820@comcast.net. Have a great day, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your time at the 2020 Virtual Family Cafe.